Hey everybody, a little delayed getting this out, but wanted to do an Aiken wrap-up video. Have a lot of footage to go over, but I just figured I would touch a little bit on all of it. Starting with this is the cross-country school we did. We did one cross-country school and then went to Pine Top because we ran the intermediate. So when you run the intermediate with an advanced course, that's sort of a cross-country school in and of itself. But also I used this as a fitness builder. Did hit this a little bit different than cross-country schools in the past, where I did about 10 or 11 minutes. It's just, this isn't very fast. This is probably only a little bit faster than show jumping pace. But I did the whole school as a continuous school, cantering and jumping the whole time. And every once in a while, I was just not sure where I was going to go. I would just canter it rather than pulling up and thinking out a new course. I would just keep cantering around, and then pick out a new exercise to do. I thought it was pretty good. Frank was his typical laid-back self. But having said that, when we got to Pine Top and we left the start box, I thought that he was fairly peppy for him. Not peppy for other horses, but as far as he was going, I didn't feel like I had to kick him every stride to get around. He kind of galloped on his own volition, which is a big goal these days with Frank, is to have him gallop and not need to be kicked every stride. So 2 days after this schooling, we started our team training with. We did one day with Peter Wild, who's the eventing show jumping consultant at the time, or right now, and then I did a day of dressage with Leslie Law, who's the 04 Athens individual Olympic gold medalist, and he's the coach in charge of the development squad, which is the list that I'm on at the moment. So I got to work Frank with him, as well as some of the younger horses that came down. So that was good fun. It's good to work with somebody new. It's most people are bouncing around fairly. Once you get to a certain point, it's pretty similar ideas bouncing around from person to person. But everybody's got a slightly different way of delivering it, and their timing and what their focus is. But it's all within the same training regiment that I think we're already doing. So I think that's good, that we're on the right page and that we're training and working on the same things that the top coaches are working on. So this was our show jumping with Peter Wild. It was basically a coursework day, which I hadn't done other than going to Bruce's field once, and I thought he was very good. When we got in the ring, he was very, very spooky, which is good. Not good that he's spooky, but it's going to happen anyway, so might as well get some practice with dealing with it in training, not just have it happen when you get to the competition. So that wasn't much of an issue with Pine Top. The Pine Top arena, it has its own challenges because it's on a hill, but by way of atmosphere and spookiness, not a terribly spooky place to work. But Carolina, which is our next run, is going to be very spooky. I know they have tents. They got the jumps are very show jumping like. It's like something you would see out of a Grand Prix. Sometimes I think they even have the bicycle jump. But things that, definitely, it's a possibility that Frank is going to bulk at them. So I think probably the last jump before we head to Carolina, we'll probably do something fairly spooky in the ring, put something to kind of surprise him. This was just a short clip from our flat with Leslie. He was pretty happy with the work that we were doing. Mostly what I'm concentrating on with Frank is just getting him to a place with a good contact, a good connection with the bridle, and then trying to not ride him so much. So rather than every stride trying to get more out of his movement, more out of his balance, more out of everything, and you end up kicking. My goal has been to get him to a decent place and then basically just take my leg off and sit on him. So that's sort of a goal that you have with horses that are not overly forward. It's not something we're terribly used to. With the thoroughbreds, our goal is always get your leg on, because once you take it off, you have a hard time getting it back on. So it's a little bit of a different set of goals. But you saw there, we practiced a few changes, really pretty well established with that at this point. And then here's Pine Top. He scored a personal best here. He got a 24. I think previously our personal best was 25, and that was going prelim. I thought the quality of work probably similar to what it's been, but I do think he shows a lot of correctness in his training. He's obviously very relaxed in the arena, doesn't make any mistakes. So while that's never an easy thing to do, to have a totally mistake-free test. But that's what Frank relies on, because he's probably not as big a mover as some are, but he does look elegant. He looks like a classy European looking horse, so that wins you some points. And when you do all of the movements correctly, that wins you points. So the one thing where he's very weak is here in the extended trots. He still doesn't have much one, but you keep an even keel and present your horse well. And if you're lucky, in the past I have gotten some 7s on those mediums. I'm not sure what I got on those, but for Frank to get a 7 on his extended, that's doing all right. I'm not sure he's gonna get many more points on those than that. But the rest of it he can. So kind of the goal with him is, if you get the 7s on the medium trots, he does his changes, he does the canter work well, he does the lateral work well, and you try to move those scores up into the 8 range. And once you do that, then you're gonna be breaking 30, which I think for Carolina and whatever 4 or 5 stars we do after that, I think that 30 mark is sort of your benchmark. That I know he has gotten under 30, but and I know he can get under 30, but if you get under 30, then you're, especially if you are at Kentucky, you're doing very well, because a lot of horses that are hitting around that will end up getting tense and losing points once they get to that big arena, which I don't think we have to worry too much about Frank. Aside from his spooking, I think it doesn't really matter what ring he's in, it's going to be about the same. So if you're around that 70, getting a 7 on every mark, maybe a few 8s, you're going to be right in it. And then my goal is always to be trying to get him to go a little quicker cross country to keep the show jumps up, which I think the quickness cross country is the one that we're working on as much as any other right now. In the past, he's had some rails down in the show jumping. He's not out and out the most careful horse ever, but he's very scopy and he's careful enough. And I think he's show jumped clean last 3 or 4 rounds, so that's getting fairly consistent. Pretty happy about that. And I think the flat work, I'd say probably particularly the canter work, is getting stronger, because he gets very kind of jammed in the canter work, and I think it's getting a little bit more fluid. I think the connection's getting a little bit more true and honest. We describe when Frank's being a little stiff, Caitlin and I, we like to call him trundly. He's got a trundly canter, but when the connection is good, like it is here, then he looks very soft and relaxed through his body, and that'll pick up the better scores. The show jumping here, a different challenge. Not the spookiness. It's a ring with fairly little atmosphere, but it's grass and it's on the side of the hill, so that is a challenge. And also they have some unconventional show jumping design where, like the course that we did at Stableview is kind of your classic lines, your 8 strides, your 7 strides, your 4 and 5 soft bending lines, sort of the typical kind of things that you see on course. The Pine Top course designer, I think, because the shape of the arena and the fact that it's on a hill, you're always getting something a little bit out of the ordinary. So, our desire to practice these sort of typical sort of show jumping layouts for a typical sized ring, we don't generally get that at Pine Top. So you can't just practice. You have to practice on training your horses, not just having them used to a certain layout. You see he's jumping well here. He's happy, and I'd have to say I think he's very fit for this time of the year. It's so nice that we're able to compete, and hopefully we're not getting our events canceled at all, but this is the time of the year where the ground is good, and we'd like to do as much with Frank as we can while we can say that. Our training is uninhibited. The last 2 summers, there's hardly anything that we could do outside the ring. So like last year when all the events in the spring got canceled, so then you're basically, from a fitness standpoint, you're starting from scratch in June, and the ground's already hard, and it was definitely a challenge. Every time we gallop, we go, what are we gonna do? The ground's concrete, and we don't want to use up their legs, but at the same time not really fit enough for what we want to do. So it's definitely a head scratcher. But right now, I think in Virginia the footing is just about perfect right now, and as long as the weather is sort of normal, you have a little rain, a few sunny days, I think at this point, it seems like it's going to stay good. I think what might send it the other way is if we get 5 days of rain or something like that. But, we've had a few days of sunshine, so it's just getting to that place where it's, pretty soft underneath, but just starting to firm up on top. I would say, first event of the season, and usually because we're down in Aiken a little bit longer, I've usually run some of the training and prelim horses, so I've gotten out of that show jumping canter. Generally in the winter time, we spend all winter in a show, going no faster than a show jumping canter. So you leave the start box at your first event and you feel like you're going 100 miles an hour. But I had 6 time penalties, which is a little bit better than average, and I'd say for first event of the season, I'd say that's doing pretty well. Hopefully we can have a decent time at Carolina. I do think fitness wise he's going to be a-okay to do whatever, but then it's just a matter of how well he's going, how easily we're meeting mid fences, and Carolina is always a big course. You're going to know a lot more about how you and your horse are doing when you come away from that event. So a couple of weeks away, pretty excited about it, and I think we will know. I think we'll know after Carolina what event we're heading to. So that'll be pretty exciting. And just doing Carolina in general, it's been a couple years, and it's such a great event, such a great track. Footing is generally pretty good. Big courses designed by Ian Stark, so it should be a lot of fun.